We are back yet again with another Assassin's Creed Shadows build, and this time we are creating an absolute insane fire build for Yasuke. Now I have made quite a few different builds for Yasuke already, focusing on raw damage, different weapons and different playing styles, but this one might honestly be one of the most satisfying affliction builds I have made so far for him. The reason for that is because this build does not just focus on dealing a lot of damage to one enemy at a time. Instead, the entire idea behind this setup is turning Yasuke into a walking firestorm, where every fight becomes a battlefield filled with flames. You will be able to ignite multiple enemies at once, spread fire throughout entire groups and slowly watch enemies burn down while you cut through them one by one. What makes this build even better is that we are combining some of the older legendary items with some of the newly added items from the mod shop, creating an endgame fire setup that feels incredibly powerful and unique. For this build we are using two weapons that work together perfectly. The first one being a legendary long katana, which will be your main damage weapon, and the second one being a weapon that I honestly have not used nearly enough until now. The incredibly strong Kanabo. The Kanabo is a weapon that I previously overlooked because of its slower attack speed, but when combined with the right engravings and abilities, it becomes an absolute monster. The main idea behind this build is simple. We want to spread fire to as many enemies as possible, increase our critical damage and use the burning effect to completely control the battlefield. And the best part about this build is that both of our main weapons have special engravings that allow us to instantly spread fire through specific abilities. So instead of manually applying fire to enemies one by one, we can simply activate our abilities and watch the flames spread across the entire battlefield. Before jumping in, a like would be really appreciated, and for more Assassin's Creed Shadows content, make sure to check out the channel. So with that being said, let's check out the build. In order to create this build for yourself, you will need the following items, starting off with the most important weapon of this build, the Ashen Razor Long Katana. This weapon is the foundation of the entire fire setup because of its unique engraving. Every attack of the Samurai Showdown ability spreads fire in the area, and this engraving is absolutely incredible. Normally, when you apply fire to an enemy, you would have to continue attacking different targets individually. But with this engraving, every attack during Samurai Showdown creates a chain reaction where flame spreads between enemies instantly. This means that you can activate Samurai Showdown in the middle of a group, hit one enemy, and suddenly the entire group around you starts burning. It almost feels like you are creating a domino effect where one enemy catches fire and immediately spreads it to everyone nearby. And apart from being extremely strong, it also looks amazing. Seeing Yasuke activate Samurai Showdown while flames are spreading across the battlefield is honestly one of the coolest looking combinations in Assassin's Creed Shadows. To further increase the effectiveness of this weapon, I added the engraving that adds a plus 32% damage with Fire Afflictions. Since this entire build revolves around constantly applying fire, this engraving is a perfect fit. The Ashen Razor Long Katana and the Fire Affliction engraving can both be purchased from the mod shop using mod coins. You can find the location over here on the map. For our secondary weapon we are using something completely different, the Scorched Earth Kanabo. And this weapon is the reason why this build is so much fun to play. The Kanabo already has some incredibly powerful attacks because of its huge damage numbers and massive impact. But when combined with this fire setup, it becomes unstoppable. The main engraving on this weapon is that every use of the crushing shockwave ability spreads fire in the area, and this ability is honestly perfect for this build. When activated, Yasuke jumps into the air and slams the Kanabo into the ground, creating a massive shockwave around him. But with this engraving, the shockwave also becomes a huge fire explosion, instantly applying fire to all nearby enemies. For the second engraving on the Kanabo, I added the engraving from the Boulder Fall Kanabo. The engraving makes sure that attacks cannot be interrupted. This might not sound like the biggest upgrade at first, but it makes a massive difference. The biggest weakness of the Kanabo is that the attacks are extremely slow, meaning enemies can interrupt you before you complete your combos. With this engraving, Yasuke becomes much more consistent, allowing you to fully commit to your attacks without constantly getting staggered. The Scorched Earth Kanabo can be found over here at the mod shop. You can buy it using the mod coins which you earn in the domains. And for the Boulder Fall engraving, you will need to defeat the Katsuragi agent of the Kurai IQ. Now that we have our two main fire weapons, we can focus on the gear pieces that will increase the overall damage and effectiveness of this build. Starting with the headpiece. I'm using a random drop called the Defender Head Wrap. The reason why I chose this item is because of its base engraving, which adds a plus 15% critical chance with consecutive enemy kills. Since this build is designed around fighting groups of enemies, this engraving works extremely well. You will constantly be defeating enemies one after another, meaning you will have a very high uptime on this critical chance bonus. And for the second engraving I added a plus 24% armor piercing with melee weapons. Also a quick tip, if you do not have one with this random roll, another great alternative for this slot would be the Samurai Daimyo Helmet of Legend. This is especially useful if you want a slightly safer version of the build with more survivability. For the armor piece we're using the Protector's armor. The main reason for using this armor is the incredible engraving, which allows you to parry unblockable attacks. This is extremely valuable because it allows Yasuke to deal with one of the biggest threats in the game, the red unblockable attacks from bigger enemies. Instead of always needing to dodge these attacks, you can now confidently parry them and continue your offensive pressure. And for the second engraving I added the engraving from the Moonlight Crescent ropes. This gives a plus 50% critical chance while undamaged in combat. So when you manage to avoid taking damage, your critical chance increases massively. The Moonlight Crescent ropes are a helix item, but luckily I managed to get them through the exchange system. If you don't have this engraving, simply replace it with something focused on critical chance, critical damage or raw damage. In order to get the Protector's armor, head over here on the map to Nijo Palace and open the legendary chest inside the main building. To finish this build we are using the Hall of the Dragon legendary amulet, and you obtain this item by progressing through the main story. If I am not mistaken, you unlock this around the 73rd main quest, and this is definitely an item you want to get. The reason is its unique engraving, that adds a plus 2% critical damage per mastery point in the Long Katana mastery tree. And since we have invested heavily into the Long Katana tree and fully upgraded it, this gives us a huge increase to our critical damage. And to even make it a bit better, I also added the engraving that adds a plus 100% of armor piercing on critical hits. Now taking a quick look at the mastery and knowledge tree. The main focus of this build is the Long Katana mastery tree, because this is where most of our damage comes from. I also invested some points into the Kanabo tree, although I'm still experimenting with the perfect setup, since this is the first time I have really used this weapon. The most important stats you want to focus on are raw damage increases, Fire Affliction damage, critical chance and critical damage. For the Long Katana tree, the most important ability is the Samurai Showdown, because this is what activates the fire spreading engraving from the Ashen Razor. And for the Kanabo tree, make sure you unlock the Crushing Shockwave, because this is what activates the fire explosion from the Scorched Earth Kanabo. And that is everything you need to create this insane Yasuke Fire Build. Once everything is combined together, this build becomes an absolute monster. Every single piece works together, the Long Katana spreads fire, the Kanabo creates huge fire explosions, and the gear increases our critical chance and damage. And the amulet takes our damage even further. The result is a build that not only looks incredible, but also feels extremely powerful to play with. You can walk into a group of enemies, ignite the entire battlefield and watch Yasuke completely dominate everything around them. So if you enjoyed this build, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more Assassin's Creed Shadows content and let me know what build you want to see next. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.